So how do we cultivate a resilient and responsive distributed design community? From August through October, Fab Lab Barcelona, as a partner of the Reservist project, is hosting a weekly online chat series in where guests share their personal experience of responding to moments of crisis. The aim is to collaboratively work on a shared vision, align values, and develop best practices. This is a Resilient Maker story. I'm Jean-Luc Perit. Good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are in the world. Thank you all for joining us on YouTube Live. We have some participants in the chat as well, so thank you very much for being here and spending your day with us. The Reservist project is actually coordinated as part of the distributed design platform in coordination with Fab Lab Barcelona. And distributed design itself as a concept is one outcome of the intersection of two global trends, the maker movement and the digitization of the design discipline. Also coming out of the distributed design platform is the book Viral Design, in which Enrico Bassi, in a paper that is also named by the same title in that same volume, argues that all situations that occur on a global scale that are not met with effective responses in the industrial production system could be approached from the way we have seen distributed mobilization in the COVID-19 crisis. They could be the next testing ground for a synchronized international response from a global network. And so for the Reservist project itself, the aim of the project is repurposing manufacturing lines for providing medical and other products and services in case of spiking demand times. The approach is to set up so-called reservist cells that in times of crises can be activated within 48 hours to switch to produce the necessary products and services. And so this is also part of the Master in Design for Emergent Futures. As I said, my name is Jean-Luc Perit. I'm actually a researcher in residence here at Fab Lab Barcelona under the Reservist project through the MDEF residency program. Also coming out of the Master in Design for Emergent Futures is the Atlas of Weak Signals, in which we used a deck of cards that were helping us do future scouting so that we could further develop social interventions using the digital technologies within the Fab Lab. Coming out of that Atlas of Weak Signals, we actually, within the Reservist project, customized the deck to actually focus on 5 different emergency crisis scenarios, one being natural disasters, pandemics, man-made industrial disasters, war and terrorism, or digital blackouts. And so we use this deck in a gamified way so that community members, people that are on the front lines within these reservist cells can start to talk about their experiences and start to actually do the scouting that needs to be done to be able to map out local resources and look for opportunities for intervention within the scenario. And so that brings us to today's guests. Today I'm joined by Vaneza Caycho Ñuflo. Vaneza graduated from the architecture career at the National University Federico Villarreal, specialization diploma in innovative furniture design, Toulouse Lautrec, with professional experience in parametric design and traditional carpentry. Vaneza is a Fab Academy alumni from the 2014 cycle, CBA-MIT Graduate Program in digital manufacturing, the project management at Fab Lab Peru Association, member of the Latin America Fab Lab Network, or Fab LAT. She is also a Fab Design Manager, Fab Kids Peru, and Fab Women Makers and Fabbers. Vaneza is the CEO of iFurniture, Digital Carpentry, who are winners of StartUp Peru, second generation, proposed to revitalize the carpentry industry by applying new technologies and innovating in design engineering. Vaneza is a promoter of CNC technology and amateur cyclist, the Beatles lover, passionate traveler, digital carpenter, maker, fabber, everything that's listed. They can't say too much about Vaneza. So Vaneza, feel free to come on camera, help to elaborate, share some more of your experiences. But welcome to the chat series.
Oh, thank you very much, Jean-Luc, for the presentation. Good morning and good afternoon, everyone. I am Vaneza. I'm very happy to accept this invitation to share my experience and our experience in my community, my local community, about makers, resilient experience with makers. So yes, thank you.
Yeah. So I definitely gave like a bit of your bio, but like just talk to us about before we even get into the emergency crisis scenario, talk about like just your lived experience being where you are in Peru, like what kind of helped set the scene for us.
So first, I come from a carpenter family. This is my background. Before to everything that I actually do and actually be, I am a carpenter, a traditional carpenter, because I was born in that traditional activity, and it's very common in Peru, in my country, to see in the streets carpenters doing different kind of furniture. So my country has a wood as a natural resource. For that reason, my family is carpenter. Now we have this industry as the first principal industry in my country. And then after that, I remember when I was a child, I always made my own furniture, made some toys, and I always tried to get more creative stuff in my house with my brother and my sisters. And I decided to study architecture as a career to continue preparing my skills in wood. It was always my goal. But after my career, I started in a normal companies, building some stuff, construction, architectural construction. But I remember in that time, I didn't like exactly that I wanted to do. I really want to do more creative things. So in that moment, in 2011, I formed a Fab Lab network in Peru, in the International Fab Lab Conference when it was in Lima, Peru, with Benito Juarez, Delia, Victor, my family, my Fab friends. So I discovered new opportunities to apply technology in a traditional culture and a traditional carpenter and woodworking design in my country. So it was my first inspiration to help my family, my grandfather and my father, to integrate technology, to try to do very different things to improve our industry. And not only the woodworking industry, so the design industry, the carpentry industry, the wood industry. So it maybe I remember I thought it could be a good impact in my country. So it was the first step that I did so many years ago.
Yes, and you're also we've worked together in the FabCraft network. And you talk so much about like the tradition and the heritage of carpentry. Yes. It's very, I think it's very, it's good that, we find this creative outlet, but also something that is affirming of the cultures and the heritage that we have. Working with hands, doing this carpentry that you're doing is also very important. So I wanted to also kind of, well, let's start by going into the emergency crisis scenario that you found yourself in. Of course, we talked previously about the natural disaster that hit Peru, and the effort to kind of quickly respond with shelter for many thousands of people that were without homes.
Yeah. So this is very interesting because when you are in a laboratory, you are experimenting different knowledge in Fab Labs or in other maker spaces. It was my case. You know how you can impact to your society. You don't have this vision. So it was my history. I think I am learning every time, experimenting new applications, new techniques. But then when the country was in the natural disaster problem, like a big problem, so you say, oh my gosh, I really can help with my knowledge. I really can react it very fast because I have the knowledge now. I have to apply in what real situation. It was happened in that moment with shelter. In my country, in different countries in South America, we have problems with the weather. The weather in one moment, it's always every year we have the same problem with the weather, and with big rainings, with big the river always was very high, and then they invade some communities, some poor communities. That year it was the bigger in our country, in the history of our country. It was a very, very big natural disaster. And in that moment, thousands of families didn't have a house by one day to another day. It was crazy. So it was an emergency. And I remember for the Fab Lab network, I found shelter as a project exactly to help people in natural disaster. And I contact shelter by website. I contact shelter, and they gave me all the information to how to build a shelter very fast. So in that moment, we have the capability to manage the project, and not only in digital fabrication way, because you need other skills more. You need to contact people, sponsorship materials, management, people who want to help, and they don't have how to help. They only want to help. So you have to manage people, how to learn, how to call, how to cut, how to, operate the machine, how to design, prepare the files, all the process that we know in the Fab Lab. So it was a big challenge for us. So we started to create that community with makers there after the natural disaster experience. And then we prepared the first prototype in one day, because we have the open source designs, the files. Mm-hmm. And then we had the machine in my Fab Lab, and we made a little prototype. And the next day we went to the government with the prototype to say, okay, we have this shelter to help people immediately. We can't fabricate that in one day if we have more people, materials, and of course, logistics supporting. And the government say, okay, let's do it really fast. And we really respond really fast in that moment, and we started to fabricate. For me, it was one of the big experience to integrate and connect the government, companies, private companies, and the community of makers. The community of makers, I remember we posted in social network. You want to help people, you want to do assembly wood with us, you want to operate machine, you want to learn how to operate machine because you don't know, okay, contact me, contact by WhatsApp, by social networks, and we received more than 100 people want to help, other people in my country, locally. And I think it is the experience. The experience is to integrate all the actors in your society, integrate your knowledge, people who want to help, integrate companies, resources, local resources, government. So when you integrate everything, I am really convinced that you can contribute, you can to make a good impact. So let me share a video about the experience. I have a very, very short video.
Okay.
How we did it in that moment. This is the video. And I will put here. It is the video the day that we assembled the first shelter in Peru in this space. Yeah, this is the video, recording all the experience with the community of makers in Peru. And it was the first prototype that we did in a local company that they sponsored the materials and all the resources of the.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. So many different connections that had to be made, and it absolutely it builds upon your background in carpentry, but also like because of the Fab Academy, because of all the things that you learned, and the community that we built within the Fab Lab network, that we have like all of these connections. Because I remember for Shelter 2.0 and Bill Young from ShopBot, having that open source design, but then also all of the Facebook groups and everything that you're saying is that just putting the call out there, and then providing an opportunity for people to learn what you've learned within a Fab Lab. I think that's like very, it's very, did it take how much? Because it seems like, you put the word out, and many people, of course, because it's in the scenario that people are very much looking for a way to help. But I want to know, like, how much, like, in advance was it for you to kind of like build out that network? Because it's also like the studies and everything, and having those connections within government, within industry. What was it like to build before the scenario?
So yeah, it was, of course, it was a particular case, in a particular context and time. But before that, you have the opportunity to create your own community. For example, in my case, we created a design maker communities, designers who likes or who loves furniture, and they want to learn more, and they want to build their own entrepreneurship about woodworking design with digital fabrication. So of course, our knowledge can improve their knowledge, can improve with technology. We normally invite them to integrate our community, offering programs, offering workshops, offering webinars, lectures about the topic who is interesting for the community. in our case, woodworking community, because it's our specialty, our carpentry. So in that moment, in that particular case about shelter, I remember I didn't know the people who come. I didn't know that. So after that, we made friends, we made connections, and this is very interesting in the part when you really start a community, when we have similar visions, similar maybe objectives and goals. And before that, we create the first program, the Fab Design Program. And after shelter, we create 2 programs more. One for students, a student who actually is studying in other universities, and other for special for women, the women designers. Other program special for women, because our industry normally is managed for men, you know. It's a carpentry is a strong industry, but actually with the technology, women and men can to manage and operate machines, because the technology is more horizontal, and we created this other program.
Yes, yeah. So I mean, I want to spend some time talking about both of those programs, but I think, like, you know, especially when we're talking about culture, when we're talking about tradition, and we're thinking about, like, even sometimes that there are like very gendered roles in how what we make, like, even, you know, going outside of carpentry, maybe like the weaving that we do in our communities, like, you know, some communities it's for the men, some communities it's for the women. So, you know, definitely, like, I want to hear some more about the programming that you have for women, but also kind of, like, you know, talk a little bit more about, like, the like kind of the cultural background as well.
Yes, so I made a thesis of investigation in Chile, in Adolfo Ibáñez University, as my master's degree about digital carpentry. I proposed a thesis to integrate the culture of the woodworking heritage that we have in Peru with wood, and special for traditional woodworking activities with digital fabrication. In that moment, the big question was, really, you really want to integrate? You really want to understand that context? Because, of course, carpenters are super old classic activities and very smart people, because they always work with hands, they always understand the wood, smell the wood, know the material for many years. And then the technology is super new in that context. So I remember my teacher told me that, are you sure? It's a very controversial topic, because the technology will enter or is entering into a traditional culture, a traditional handicraft activities. But the important thing is how you introduce technology in this kind of activities. So I started with my grandfather, because my grandfather was my big experiment to how to integrate Vaneza in his company, you know. It was my thesis was exactly for my experience when I was a child, and I always was very creative to propose other kind of techniques, and my grandfather always wanted to stay in the same technique. How you combine 2 proposals, 2 different proposals. So yeah, I say, okay, I can do it. I can do that. So I feel that my experience can contribute with that. And after that, I prepared 3 study cases about that, how introduce new techniques with digital fabrication in woodworking design and handicraft. And we introduced digital joints. We introduced machines that was produced in the classic carpentry, and we convert the machines in digital fabrication. So I tested some experiments about process, time, tools, and observations, perspectives about carpenters. So in the conclusion gave us that yes, the carpenter really appreciate the technology when the technology is introduced in a process that actually they are working in that. That when you introduce the technology and you put the technology exactly in that slope that they can understand that the process will improve automations and times and production is, of course, they will understand that the technology contribute and improve the industry. So yeah, it was my thesis degree, and we had good result with that, and actually we are really working to continue, to continue studying, because it's a big impact for us. It's totally a big impact to introduce carpenters in our industry with this technology.
Yes, and for the women carpenters as well.
Yes.
Just I hear your experiences with your grandfather, and then thinking about sort of like, it's very much like, okay, step by step, like this is what we've always done. This is how. But then you also have like your own experience of being very creative and asking questions and everything. I wanted to know, like, just dig into that a little bit more. Like, what are some of the approaches that women bring with them to this carpentry? Like as they're going through the program, what are some of the newer things that women are coming up with?
Yeah, first. The first position of women designer is that they always design in a computer, and they know exactly fabricate. It's a visualization design, or maybe in software, in CAD, but they don't participate in the fabrication directly. They contract, or they join with other carpenter or constructor to build their design. And in our program, you interrupt that vision, you interrupt that activity, and you are really disruptive when you say, okay, now you have to participate in the operation of the machine, in the fabrication, in all the process, not only in this process, because the industry is like a line that you start designing, but then you start prototyping, but then you fabricate it, and you have a result. And you have a customer. The customer is the final actor in your line, in your production line, the new local production line. So the first part of the program is, okay, you have to understand the new local productions that is, in this case, because the technology contribute in each different parts. So when the design say, okay, yes, that's okay. Okay, which my role now? Which my role? Okay, now you have to learn all the process. The first part is easy because designers know how to design in software, how to manage. But then when you enter in the fabrication, the designer, of course, is like, it's new for me. I don't know if I can do it. The machine is big. A lot of paradigms that you have to cut paradigms to say, okay, you can do it. I can do it. You can do it. Everybody can do it. So it's very interesting how the program is actually growing in this way. And after that, now the women designer, go to the Fab Lab, operate the machine, and then she can to understand on the process that she document the information, all the experience, and then she have the opportunity to create their own business. This is very important. It's like, after that, I know how to do it, and maybe I want to create furniture for children, or furniture for elderly, or furniture for, I don't know, for schools, furniture for maybe for office, so business building. So yeah, this is the idea. So the program gives you the capability to understand all the process according to what do you want to do exactly. So we show all the process and then you choose what do you want to do.
Yes, and it's very important. I think that you're addressing not just the conceptualization and the fabrication, but then you also have the entrepreneurship as well, leading to the sustainability for the women in the program to actually be well, I don't want to use sustaining too many times, but that is self-sustaining and supporting. Yeah, it's very interesting, very good. It's like you know, I think that we and we're also talk about earlier about sort of the culture within the Fab Lab itself, that you are constantly thinking about like experimenting here, doing this and everything. But then when we come to these emergency scenarios, there is so much of a push for like the social aspect, the organizing. And so, you know, I want to kind of like also talk about like, you know, again, for the women, like, you know, what is it to be not just for the carpentry profession, but to like kind of identify themselves as members within a Fab Lab, makers themselves. What is it to kind of disrupt or interrupt that culture, that maker culture for to be more inclusive of women?
Yeah, of course, we made a paper the last year in the Fab Papers research. So we realized women always have the capability to manage every different process, every different projects to different topics. So this is very interesting because women in other industry, they have this capability to manage everything and like a multitasking activity with different details, of course, with our characteristics. So when you introduce this knowledge and these skills in the industry, for example, in shelter, I remember that I needed a good leader team to manage different process in the project. So I remember my leader team, they were women. One woman is like, okay, I will manage all the digital files, I will manage the material, I will contact that, I will buy that. And the other is like, okay, I will contact with the government. And I remember my leader team were women, and they were very, very fast and very super reactive with a context because it was an emergency. So yeah, I really confirm that. I really confirm when you open the possibility to integrate women in digital fabrication or in this kind of maker spaces with more technology, that maybe they thought this is not my space. But when you really invite them and say, okay, come in, join us and try to, you know, to get some different that you are actually working in your work, in your job. So yeah, women, it's like they reacted like very, very fast and very active. Okay, I think woman thinks that that space is not for me. So it's a social paradigm in my country. So no, this is not for me. I am not capable to do it. But when you say, okay, come in, join us, and I say women reacted very fast and with all the potential that they have or that we have. So yeah, this was my experience in the shelter construction in Peru. So actually in the woman designer programs, actually we have the same experience. After the knowledge and after that they are participating in some activities, they have a empowerment to say, okay, I really want to manage that, I want to do that. So I think it's one of opportunity to you know to make experience with women. So
yes, and it is very much, you know, when you do foster those opportunities, that you see how much the women can take charge within the project, that you're saying that I will be the one to contact the government. I'll do, help with the files and all of this, like, initiative, like not just like, makers kind of iterating, perfecting, all of this, like, no, this is, yes, that's interesting. Yes, that's nice, but we must do something, right? That this is like, that ability, that empowering ability to take initiative within the crisis is very important. Yeah. Wow, that's so. Let me think. Well, actually, we're talking about this scenario. We're talking about like all of the weather and everything like that, and we're talking about the importance of the materials, the wood. And I was wondering, like, maybe it's a supply chain. Were there any challenges that you had in terms of like doing the organization, doing the prototype, perhaps even scaling it up? What were some of the things that were unexpected for you within this situation?
Of course, yes. In the first time, I remember we didn't have all the logistic to do something. If we had a loan and without help, without the government help, or maybe the companies help us, maybe it could be different. And we had to understand in my country that production and the logistic is very different. Sometimes slow, sometimes we don't have some supplies. Maybe I remember one anecdote with my friends in one conference, and I remember I always cutting in the machine, in the CNC machine, with one of two different kind of mill. And I remember he told me, "Why you don't cut this with this mill?" I said, "Because in my country we don't have that. We don't have this kind of, we don't have finishing. We don't have rounded mill. We don't have difference, because of course the logistic and the production in technology is low in comparison with other countries. So of course we are improving years by years, but the context is different. And could you imagine how to build for the government or for the people when we presented the shelter and they say, "Wow, how you do it in short time?" And we say, because this is open design, this is a Fab Lab network, this is a concept where when the technology help you, the technology help emergency cases, help impact in health, in weather, in children's, in education. And when you connect that with the community and the global community, you can make impact like this. We fabricated it. We didn't decide it because Bill, I remember Bill John helped us every day with details, every day that I don't understand this line. I remember Bill always sent me an email, "Okay, check this part. I remember after the first construction, the joints didn't work very well. And I remember I recorded the video, I sent Bill, and Bill redesigned in the same moment, and Bill sent me the file. Wow. And it was very good work. It's like a work team, not only a local team, supporting with the community, with a global community. So a lot of experience to understand when you apply the technology in a very well way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, especially that connection, that it's like the example of the joints that Bill was able to modify the designs here in the United States, and then send it back to you for fabrication in Peru.
In minutes, in minutes, yes. Oh yeah, we're coding. I said, "Cut! Stop the machine! I received the file." Yeah. But, of course, wow. People who never experiment that, people is like, "Wow, you can do it that." And I remember one guy told me that, but this is not your design. And I say, yeah, it's not my design. It's no need to do my design. It's a global design. It's for free. It's for help people. This design is great for help people. It's other concept of the design. And they say, wow, because they don't know, classic designers always say, this is my design. This is for me and for my client. And that's all. But the design is totally different now. Totally different, the concept of the design. So this big impact to one guy to help and then to discover different ways of the design. They say, wow, now I am very interested in open source. I'm very interested in work with other colleagues in other countries. You help to the people include to understand and to open the vision to understand the global community with technology.
Yes, I think it's very much how you're disrupting the philosophy around architecture and fabrication by doing this sharing about the open source, because I think people we come to points where we're talking about skills acquisition, and yes, like we were talking about sustaining yourself, like that's very important. But in this scenario too, there comes a point where it's like the reason why we're making is to promote the resiliency. That's the return on my investment. Like, I am doing this for my community. This is not just for me to like make money right now. And I have the person I have the designer on the phone. He can say, this is good that I'm using this. Yes. Wow.
But this is the circular economy. This is new concepts to live, new concept to make industry, new concept to learn. So it's new. I think we have the responsibility to share our experience, to share in our local community with designers and makers which is the vision, which is the next step, and we are preparing people to new local disaster and new natural disaster that of course they will be happening in some moments, and we have to be ready for that.
Now, I wanted to the one question that I have in my mind right now about the intervention is you're doing so in the one prototype example, you had the partner who sponsored all of the materials, and you did it on site at the warehouse. But then as you're doing more shelters, what was it to do the transportation of all of these shelters, especially to the areas in which people need the shelters the most?
The government has is like a office for natural disaster, and they have transportation special to transport material on food or principal supplies to go to the natural disasters, and they move the people in a security area. It's a little far to the disaster, and they make big tents, like a principal emergency tents to the people. And then we coordinate with this transportation to pick our material, but we build the shelters in the place, in the place where was the disaster. We transport only the pieces, like a puzzle. We transport the pieces and we assemble the pieces in the space, in the local space. So it was very, very, for us, it was less difficult to do it.
But lots of collaboration with the government, with the disaster response that was already there.
In that moment, it's very, very important to communicate our proposals, because we posted in social network our prototype. We sent a lot of friends in WhatsApp groups and Telegram groups to say, we are working in that. So, to the government say, okay, it's like one group of guys are are building a solutions, okay, they contact us, and of course we work we contact Benito, Delia, they help us to contact the government. So it's like it's a community, exactly, it's a network. It's like the network helps you, support you every time, include with contacts with management in the government. So
yeah,
in any ways.
yeah, and a lot, I mean, we all had globally, we've had this shared experience of the emergency of the pandemic. And I definitely wanted to focus on the response within the natural disaster, but then also, just from your experience of being there working, or doing work locally, like what has been sort of like, what has shifted within the pandemic for Fab Labs and for response and things like this?
I think it was the similar conception, the similar feelings to help people. It was the similar reaction of people, community, the Fab communities. We reacted very fast with more different goals, more different, situation, because the pandemic was very hard in my country. So we created a COVID networking. And I remember you can subscribe in a platform, and you can subscribe. Okay, I can collaborate with design. I can collaborate with materials, filaments. I can collaborate with 3D printing. I can collaborate with my machine. I really have my machine available for a COVID. It was a very, very good experience. So I remember Benito, Delia, they create a community not only in Peru. We create a community in all the Latin American Fab Lab network. I remember I was in Chile at that time, and I was participating in the Chile community for COVID, and it was the same concept. I remember the people to subscribe, and they have a 3D printing in the house, and then they deliver filaments, like I remember, like in a van, they deliver filament for houses, and then I received my filament, and I made like a 200 support for the mat.
Yeah.
And then when I have the pack, I took a picture, I entered the picture to the platform, and they the car receiving the pack. I remember in the same part, like a delivery car with 3D printing stuff, some materials, and it was wow. Then they join all in one house, and then they deliver to hospitals and to emergency places. So yeah, the same process, management, people who want to help, partnerships, sponsorship for material, government to make a transportation. So it was the same experience. And I think we have the pattern, we have the opportunity, and the most important thing for this is the people. When the people really, really in your position, in your role as a government, as a company, as a maker, in your role, if you really want to help and you want to integrate in a production line, that you can do it. So yeah.
That's beautiful. So I want to ask, like, what is after all of this experience, all of this learning that you were doing, from, I mean, it seems like we spoke about a lifetime of learning here today, like from your family, and then your the institutional learning, the degrees and everything, and the Fab Academy as well, but also like very much the deep learning that you did within this call to action. So after all of this, what are sort of the opportunities that you see for the future, for yourself, for women, for your other students, and so forth?
So actually, I am introducing in data analytics with all of those experience. My idea is to continue promoting this kind of experience with women designers, carpenters, makers, Fab Labs, and everything, natural disaster experience. So, but we have data. You know, we have information, we have people, we have a lot of networking and contacts. We have contacts in the government, we have contacts in school, in the university, in Fab Lab. We have a lot of information. Now my question now is, now what I want to do and make with this information and knowledge and experience that I have. Of course, I am actually working in data, and after the data, okay, you can organize data, you can say, okay, this community could help me in this kind of situation. The government could help me in this kind of programs I can propose. You know, the university can help to help me with infrastructure. Yeah, you then, when you have the data, you can organize the data, you can prepare programs, prepare projects, more organized, you know, to offer to your community, of course, to make more impact and to help people. We have a lot of local problems in my country. Yeah, we have poor, we need help in maybe in the Andean places. Yeah, we have problem with alpacas, with llamas, with the industry of textile. We have problem with water, we have problem with agriculture. Yeah, it's a lot of different local situation that, of course, the technology and digital fabrication can to help now. So actually I have data, I have experience, I am documenting the experience, the data, and I am working with Fab Lab Peru, you know, to prepare and to offer maybe create new programs or improve our programs that actually we are working in them.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's really that's really good. That's really good. That's especially the you know, just the documentation aspect of it alone, just for anybody within a lab, to be able to say like, yes, here are all of the connections that you can make, or that we've made, and then you can build upon it, and build out your own social network there. Is very, very good, because I remember previously from my own experience, being from the southern United States, we have very much so, like you deal with in South America, with the weather, the hurricanes that come through. And you know, I had been asked by a member of the Fab Lab network before. It's like, okay, you know, if you had access to a Fab Lab, you know, what could you do within this scenario? And I struggled with it, because I was, you know, I was still kind of learning about the community and everything. But you know, after seeing your experiences and the organizing that you were doing in Peru, it was like, okay, you know, here is what's possible, even for my community members that are in remote areas. There are ways that the impact can reach them, and skills as well to use the digital technology like that. It's accessible to them as well. So it's very, you know, thank you for that teaching for me.
No. Thank you for the invitation. So for us, any spaces to promote and communicate our experience could inspire, or could maybe create new experience. So the idea is to create that together.
Yes, absolutely. Well, I want to say one more time, big hug. Thank you so much, Vaneza, for all that you do. I'm going to go ahead and share, because we have a tool here that all of our participants, we have a Miro board called the Resilient Maker Stories board. This is something that we're using at the end of every conversation. You know, we have this link up, but I'll send you the link. You're able to, like, people can go to this board, they can take notes, they can ask questions and things like this. And then you also have the opportunity, because we have everybody set up. We have we have Emilio, we have Archie, and then all the people that are going to be within this series as well on this Miro board. So we have that way of communicating, and then showing people because we're walking through this process of talking about yourself, talking about how you build your community, the story of land, thinking about like the ecosystem, all of the things that pop up in the local context, and then talking about like what is their work going forward. The same type of conversation that we have with you. We're hoping that we're building up this tool so that we have people within scenarios are able to do this type of mapping and then respond within 48 hours. So, and we have plenty of feedback for all of the people. So you get to hear, you know, from the other people that have watched the YouTube live, you know, if they've enjoyed the conversation and all of that. And so we're going to be building out, you know, this really big map. But we wanted to remind everybody that, you know, this is again part of a series. Next week, we're going to have Ohad join us. So definitely Ohad from Stratasys and Fab Lab Network. Then we're going to have Enrico and Andrew and Adriana Cabrera, along with other sessions that we're going to be adding to the schedule. So looking forward to all of that. So yeah, next week is Ohad. But yes. Thank you so much, Vanessa, once again. And we really appreciate your time, and I really appreciate all of your work.
Thank you very much, and Luke. See you in the next time.
Okay. Ciao.
Ciao. Bye bye.